Ignite the spark and stop settling. Business doesn't have to be complicated with complicated marketing strategies and ads and things like that. Today, we are welcoming Kate Richardson. I'm going to invite her right now. Um, yeah, all right. Welcome, welcome. I had a little bit of time to introduce you. Was just saying right now that you are a business coach, business educator, working with other coaches, other business owners to actually work with them to grow their business, launch their business and programs, and make sure that the whole process is being done in a effortless way, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you
So,
for having me.
welcome to this session, sister. So glad to have you here. So we've known each other for not too long. We actually are in the same program
Yes,
that we just joined not too long ago, right? So I
right.
think like just a little preview of how okay we are both coaches, right? We are working with business owners, but we are getting coaching. We are investing in ourselves because that's what the game is, right? It's about like continuous learning.
hmm hmm
What would you say about that? Do you have a little word about that?
Um, you know, when I started getting coaching about 12 years ago, it was always said to me, when you learn to invest in yourself, you also attract people who will invest in you, right? And it's not that they're investing in you, they're investing in themselves, but you're the tool and the caveat to allow them to gain that knowledge because you understand what it takes, right? You understand the fears, you understand the stories that we tell ourselves about, oh, I don't have the money for this, but yet I want this outcome and this transformation that this person is offering to
Yeah,
me. And so yeah, and when you invest in yourself, it gives us, we learn the skills so that we can go help others, as it
yeah.
simple as it is, right?
And also, yeah, that's so true. And people have different ways of approaching business, right? And it gives us a different perspective, getting somebody else's having another method of doing their marketing or, launching their courses or their programs, and also dealing with their clients,
Mhm.
right? There's different ways of doing it and learning from different perspectives. I think it's rewarding, like there's something that we can gain from that new acquired knowledge, right?
Yes, 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 yes. We get to the goal faster, if that makes sense.
That's what it is. That's what it is. So, okay, tell us, like, let's go in your story because I know you have a story to tell. You want to share your message also. We're gonna have a conversations today, but mainly I wanna learn a little bit more about what it is that you really want to spread around.
Well, for me, it started back when I was a young 25-year-old, right? So I'm a little bit older, right? And so 25, when I was 25, I didn't have a choice but to start a business, right? I did the thing that we were told to do. I go to school, I get a degree, right? And I'm supposed to have this great job. But when I graduated, there were no jobs, right? Organizations were letting people go by the thousands around the United States. So even if I wanted to leave out of South Florida, there was really nowhere to go, right? And so what I had to do was figure out what is it that I want to do now, right? And so for the meantime, I went to get a job through a temporary agency because I had a son at the time and I needed to pay the bills, right? And so as I sat there in a desk one day, right, I I'm telling my age because we had what we call classified ads. So you would get the newspaper on Sunday and look for jobs in the classified ads. Yes. And so I, you know, got the classified and there was an opportunity, right? But, it presented itself as an opportunity. Went to the interview and the person said, look, this is not a traditional job. We classify it as a job, but this is the opportunity for you to be an independent contractor, However, we can only pay you pretty much like $30 a day. And I'm like, what? I'm making more than that now, right?
Well,
And so, but I looked at it as an opportunity to get away from the desk before I kind of got complacent, right, and comfortable, right, with having that steady money and not being able to do the thing that I wanted to do. And so I decided to take a leap. And with taking that leap, I quickly had to open up a corporation. I quickly had to learn how to network, how to market myself, how to sell myself, right? And so back then, the only tools that we really had were books, right? There were no coaching back then. There were no courses. There were no, seminars. And if there were seminars, they were usually for a higher management, corporate executives to go out and get that marketing and that expertise. But for the small business owners, we really only had books. So all I could do was just get into the books, figure out how to network, how to position myself, how to market myself, how to ask for money, how to compete against large corporations doing the thing that I was doing at the time. And so it was hard and it took me a while. I figured it out. And by landing my first client, which was the government, it was great. And then landing more clients and more clients, it was an opportunity. Being so young that it was almost like a dream come true that I really figured this out. And because I was very young, right, I would go to networking events and people would look at me like, you look at this little baby. Who are you? What are you doing here? Right. And so as I began to build my brand, build my business, people just came to me asking me about marketing and positioning myself. And so years later, I kind of fell in love with it because, the tips that I was giving to people helped them begin to grow and navigate their own businesses. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell.
yeah, that's okay. Thank you so much. So what was it like to that journey, right? To go from like having the idea and then launching your business and then having your first client. How long did it take? And what did you have to go through?
So it took about, I would say it took me more than 8 months, right? And
Mm,
so in that time frame, again, I had the independent contractor position, and I that one was a little bit easier because it was in demand, right? So there were other small independent businesses looking for what I was doing as a healthcare entrepreneur. So I just began to network and position myself in that market. And as I built that, I kind of navigated to doing something called ergonomics at the time, right? So I was the ergo lady.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
then, I wanted to then market to corporations, and, that's where I really had to dive in deep, learning about marketing and contracting and networking and public speaking so that I could be seen as the expert in the room to be able to grab the attention of as many people, because I didn't have a huge marketing budget. So
yeah,
that, I didn't have the budget to send out thousands of flyers and emails and all that thing. And emails was just coming in at the time as well. And so one of the things that really changed for me when I got my first client was I did a lead magnet. And that lead
okay,
magnet talked about the challenges of office ergonomics for the workforce. And the US government entity found that publication, that ebook online, which is the lead magnet, and they read it like, oh, wow, she seems like she can solve our problem. They sent me an email. We had a phone call. And again, nervous, like, oh my gosh, this is huge. This is my first big client. And they said, yes, we're ready to sign up with you. I didn't even have a credit card processing.
wow,
I had to figure out how, because they didn't pay by checks. It
yeah,
was, a company card. And there was no PayPal at the time, so I had to scramble and figure out how was I going to accept this payment. Because again, back then, if you ran credit cards, there were the high percentages that you had to
yeah,
pay. You had to have, $20,000 in a bank account to prove that you were trustworthy to accept credit cards. So it was crazy. It was tough, but looking back, I would do it all over again, right? with
yeah.
again with what I know currently.
And you were still able to, like, you got that offer, right? And you were like, oh, damn, I'm not ready for that. Like, I need to figure out so many things, paperwork and all that, I guess, right?
Yes.
And how, like, how did you turn, because you made it work still, right? Like that's what like ignite the flame, and now you were on your way, right?
I was
Uh,
on my way, and that one client gave me the opportunity to have a testimony, to be able
mm,
to talk about the
yeah,
change that I made for that client. Then moving on to my next client, which was the local government here, and then getting paid speaking opportunities to speak about ergonomics, and getting invited to speak for the Florida HR Association major conference with 20,000 attendees, right? And so
yeah,
again, it was work getting there,
mhm,
right? But
yeah,
I eventually got there with all of the mistakes that I just kept fixing and correcting, fixing and
yeah,
correcting, reading, and
yeah. And
and there it was.
I mean, like you said, also at that time, there was not too many, like the world of coaching was not the way it is today, right? So getting some personal coaching, except like away from the books and what was available out there at, a really high price point.
Mhm.
w- how did you surround you, like how did you actually, were you all figuring it out, or did you have people that supported you in the beginning of your journey?
No, I didn't have people supporting me, right? I was very young. I was in a space where it was a lot of lawyers or major corporations who were the pot or pool, right, of who I was trying to market to. So I didn't
Mm,
really have that. I remember going to a networking event in Miami, known as the Women's Chamber of Commerce here, and I was networking, and I met this one lady. Her name was Gail, and I told her, what do you do, kind of thing, right? Your elevator pitch. And I said to her, hey, I do ergonomics consulting. And she said to me, oh my God, I have someone who's been looking for someone to do ergonomics for the last month or so. I have to introduce you to her. And so she introduced me to the young lady. It took a couple weeks before we connected, and we sat down, we had lunch, and she hired me to work with her clients.
mm,
And through that partnership, we became business best friends, right?
mhm.
And so that led to me having a level of support, it being another Black woman in the industry, in a very male dominant industry, right? So
Okay.
she and I connected after, we built that partnership of me helping her with her clients. And that became my true support for about, for about almost about 10 years. Maybe,
Mm,
maybe I would say maybe 8 years until I actually hired my first coach.
okay. Okay. Yeah, really precious to have people like that.
Very.
And I want to go back, Kate, because I heard something and I'm like, was it really that you were talking about, like being offered or being paid $30 a day, right? What was it? Was it
Yes,
that?
it was $30 a day. Yes.
And what did it imply? Like what did you have to do to get that $30 a day?
So by profession, I'm an occupational therapy assistant. So I do rehabilitation.
Okay.
And so being a therapist, similar to physical therapy, again, just rehabilitating patients that came into the clinic. And so it was a small rehab company. They didn't have a lot of patients, right? So they were
Yeah.
basically, it wasn't a full day of work. It was a few hours a day, but that was the best that they were willing to pay me. But I accepted it because it opened up the door of many more opportunities,
Mhm.
right? You know,
Yeah.
opportunity comes in disguise as Think and Grow Rich, right? If you go back to the book Think and Grow Rich, opportunity
Yeah.
always comes in disguise. And so you can't look past of if you can't look past to what you think it should be, then you can kind of remain stuck and just
Yeah.
where you are and not move forward. And that was basically what it was for me. Opportunity disguised as a low paying independent contractor position
Yeah.
that opened the door.
Sometimes, exactly. Sometimes it's like either like wake up calls saying like, no, hell no, I'm not gonna do that, right? And then it moves you to the next opportunity. Sometimes it's just like I could do it for free, and you know it's gonna propel me towards what I've done jobs in the past that I was like, this is not what I want to do for my life, right? But it elevated my leadership skills, right? So I was willing to do it, right? And I was willing to do it, and also I found a way to still find passion in that, even though it was not what I wanted to do. So there's a way still, right? But being like acknowledging, right, that this is like a almost like a trampoline or like a transition. It's also motivating because we know that it's not gonna be a whole life at $30 a day. And I don't like what could you buy for $30 a day at that time?
Man, I would be honest with you. I told none of my family or friends that I had done this because I was so embarrassed. All I could tell myself was, you have to figure this out and you have to now go get more of these, right? And so when I got into the build, I'm like, okay, so who do you know? Who else is looking for me? And who should I connect with? And that was what I started doing immediately. Like, okay, so I'm here, but I have to gain more. I have to have more clients. I have to have more rehab companies to go put myself in. And people started directing me. And again, I didn't know how to network. I wasn't taught networking in school, right?
Yeah.
I didn't learn how to pitch myself. Right. The first time I had ever pitched something was when I was 10 years old, standing on the corner of my grandmother's home. Right. And I wanted candy as a little girl. And I talk about this in my book. I wanted candy as a little girl. And I'm like, how am I going to get $1 to go buy some 10-cent cookies? Right. I'm like, oh, my grandmother has mason jars because she lived in Georgia and she made preserves, right? And then she had this tree that had these really big red flowers on them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, who buy flowers? Men, target market, right? Problem, he's probably needing to make up to his wife. So let me cut this down and put it in a vase with some water. And I'm going to stand on the street and yell, $1 for flowers, $1 for flowers.
Yeah.
Cars passed by and one person said yes to me.
And that was enough.
That was enough, right? I got my $1 to go buy candy that evening.
Yeah. And then you closed the shop, right?
Yes,
And then you said
right?
like, see you at 25. I think, you know, kids are the best at that, you know, like we were talking about pitching, like they don't even need to, yeah, I mean, you were already strategizing at that time. That is very high level. But kids are so good at that. And I wonder like what happens? What happens? Like at a certain point we just lose like all of that, right? We need to relearn all of that later, right? What
Yes,
happens?
because again, our parents, the programming, all that stuff, and hey, goes out of the door.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really like it's definitely like my kids are still there. My kids are still at at that age. Um, Man, they are so persistent.
Keep them
So
that way.
persistence, yeah, definitely. As parents, like be like nurturing those qualities. Also, it's so key. Being aware of that, you know, because um, yeah, probably like most of the time, like the parents are not really aware that those are skills that if nurtured, you know, we can keep them that way, and then you know they become like successful entrepreneurs at 16 years old, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
So if we go to you're talking about like at what time you started gaining momentum you feel in your business?
Um, I think I really started gaining more momentum after I met the young lady. And I think that was probably about a year and a half into the business where I really started gaining the momentum because, again, I was more branded. I started doing public speaking. You
Mhm.
know, I had this way about how I showed up in a room, and everyone's like, "Well, who is this young lady with this
Yeah.
bright hair?" And she's here for all
Yeah.
of us, right?
Yeah.
And so it was then that I started building the momentum because of the public speaking and getting clients and getting referrals and building those partnerships.
So, and I can, people who are listening to us right now, they can already tell like you have that energy, and I think like networking is a big part of growing your business. I would like to know a little bit more about how you use networking. This is something like I'm just exploring. I haven't seen anything about that, but I just feel that you have that like that nature to like go towards people and talk about what you're doing. So can you tell a little bit about the role of networking, how you approach that to grow your business?
Well, again, back in the day, again, before online marketing came into play, we had to get out and we had to network.
Yes.
Although we have technology now, networking was how people built businesses. And for me, I always went to two places: the people who had my ideal clients, who I could partner with, or the actual ideal client in the company. I went to wherever they were hanging out at. So wherever my buyer was, that's where I was. And then I also went to places where the people who probably had access to them were hanging out,
Hmm.
and just mutually trying to provide a win-win situation. Me winning, by receiving referrals, but also winning, giving them back something in return,
Yeah.
right? As an opportunity to say, hey, if you're helping me, I'm going to also help you. What do you need, right? Who are you looking for? Let me look in my Rolodex to see if I can connect you or position you with the person that you're looking for. And
Yeah.
even in that moment of doing that, you would be surprised how so many people really, number one, was afraid to pitch themselves. They didn't really know how to articulate what they do so
Hmm.
that I could easily remember them and refer
Yeah.
them,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
skill that if a lot of entrepreneurs had to go out into the world outside of the internet, it would be very challenging.
Yeah. I think it is still a challenge. Like even online, I think people are struggling with that. This is a challenge already, like online, even if it's written, right? So imagine now, like there's a lot of people that hide behind, and there are many ways to do it,
Oh,
right? There are
yes.
many ways, but to show energy is really powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Like to actually get out there, and you can still be online and show your energy now, right? But that's also a skill to develop, right? So I think it's still a challenge. It like we have the tools now to make it easier, and we don't need to actually like travel a couple of hours by plane, to go to the next city, right? We're not so much limited by like if I want to go out and network with people, then I would need to go to Montreal, and then I would need to wait for that particular event to happen or organize it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now everything is happening like at every single. There is an event right now as we speak, right? And it could be in India right now. They're probably awake, so it's happening at the same time, right? So the opportunities are gigantic,
Mm-hmm.
but the challenge resides. A lot of entrepreneurs struggle to actually articulate, what they have to offer in a compelling way, right? A way that really showcase who they are and what really like differentiate them from the other people.
Exactly. And I do have to compliment you. I think you did a good job of networking with me, right? Because that's how we connected.
Thanks.
Invited me into, Facebook Messenger and said hello. And we, just back and forth, had small dialogue, and it wasn't that you were trying to pitch me or selling me. We just genuinely, right,
Mm.
cared or became interested in what each other were doing,
Yeah.
right? And to be
Yeah.
honest, you're the only person who I've connected with, from the group without someone trying to then later pitch me into something, if that makes sense, right? So
Yeah.
I think you did a great job networking, and continue to do that, from an online perspective. I think it was great.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, for me, like human connections are so important. And I think that has to come before, there's Simon Sinek that was mentioning, like every time you do a presentation or like you get out there, right? You always have to have in mind, giving in mind, right? You need to show up as like giving first in mind, right? But even without think like for me, like that connection and the way I approach people is that it's not just giving in mind, but it's the connection, Like I love to connect with people and to get to know what they're about, right? What are their goals and also the challenges, because if there's a way that I can provide something without it being my offer, even if it's not my offer, right? If I can, like share a link or, share an insight or an idea or something like that, or connect you with somebody else, that I think that's how we can build thriving communities, right?
Yes.
Just one by one, connecting like that. Um, and thank you for bringing that up because that also brings the question, um, what was, so let's say, for example, I connect with you. What was your first thought? Because most of the people, they have an agenda in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was your first thought at that point, when f me or somebody else, like trying to just connect?
Again, it's all in the approach. I mean, your approach didn't come off as if you were trying to position your services with
Mm,
me. It was just
yeah.
genuinely a genuine, how is it going for you? A simple question,
Hmm.
right? And we began to build the dialogue where another individual, they friend requested me, I accepted because we're in the same group,
Yeah.
and then they immediately sent me their link to their Facebook group.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't join, but it's just interesting. Not, oh, we're in the same group, build a rapport. Oh, maybe
Yeah.
my group may help you as well,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
you know?
I think this is so that discussion is so important because also a lot of the marketing strategies out there are a lot about numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna be like, yeah, just do as much as you can, like as many numbers as you can, and out of those numbers, you're gonna get people who say yes. But yeah, like okay, some people they might build their business like that and it feels okay to them, right? For me, this is not how I want to build my business because as I said, like first, I'm not even trying to think like maybe there's I don't know, like let's say for example, maybe it depends. If you see like a flagrant um need and it's being communicated, something like that, then like you present yourself and the person sees that it's a fit already, right? Uh, but I mean, I don't want to do that. Like I cannot just be like sending requests and then sending the link for and there's no connection, right? It's just like you take for granted that yeah,
We're still
you go
human.
there, you go there, you go through my funnel, and then
The human
yeah,
connection
yeah, it's the key
is
for real.
the key. For some,
Yeah. So
for me, it's genuine connection, and I like genuinely connecting with people, getting to know people. Because again, even if I may not be a fit for them, that relationship, which could be a 5-minute conversation, can lead to other opportunities. Oh, you know what? I remember Kay. She does this, although, it didn't help, it couldn't help me. I have someone I'm going to refer
Yeah.
to Kay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think also, let's say, for example, someone who wants to spread their message and get out there and connect with people. I think also um, having a clear sense of what their mission is, and having a not just having like a I help statement, right? Like I help, no, 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 but having a mission, like what really do you stand for? What do you believe in?
Mhm.
Not just, I think it's too many times like we approach business with a narrow mind, and
A
there
number in mind.
a number in mind, and then, yeah, it's like you got to focus, right? But life is so much more than that. Life is grand, like you are making an impact with your business. Although you might unconsciously, like, this is what you want to do. You want to make your impact in the world, and you want to also get business and get, that maybe that financial freedom or more flexibility of your time. But sometimes that defends like the whole purpose, and then you might forget about, what impact, what change you seek to make, right? When you keep that in mind and you're like, yeah, stand for something, and you really connect with that, right? The people start to see, when they see what you stand for, now they start to rally to your cause. They start to rally to your mission. And now you start to build a community, a tribe. And this is, I think this is a really powerful way to build your business, right? It's not just going to be clients. There's going to be clients in that, but there's also going to be, partners or supporters or just, like friends who are going to follow you along the way. And you might be able to, how do you say that? Like, share different skills or things like that, knowledge. Podcasts sessions like we do right now, so I think this is really powerful to approach it like that.
And I definitely agree. There's a time to connect, and there's a time to convert,
Yeah, well.
if that makes sense.
uh, okay, let's go. So you've done some speaking for years now.
Yes.
um how it, what does it look like actually? Do you convert from the stage?
Yes.
Okay.
So I do convert from the stage. I convert from the stage if I have the opportunity to promote a particular product or service. So I do it that way. But then I also convert through lead magnet. So again, I have an offer, and again, it's whatever the offer is, but you have to have an offer that's going to transform and fulfill a need for the people who have that problem in the room. So whatever your offer is, whether it can be, a complimentary strategy session, it could be a ebook or a white paper, or it could be your actual services, whatever you're pitching. Because again, depending on some of the stages that I've spoken on, I can't always sell from the stage, but I still have to be compelling enough and powerful enough to get the audience to take action into the offer that I am presenting from the stage.
Okay, yeah. So sometimes it's towards a lead magnet, so people can experience you
Yes.
more. Sometimes it might be the offer right
Yes.
away, and sometimes it's just, you being there, and people are gonna look out for you after the event,
Exactly.
right? Okay. And how do you approach your speech? Do you use stories?
Yes, I do use stories. I use my own story. I use client stories. I may even use stories from everyday companies that we are familiar with. Because again, when people are connected to certain brands, they get it more, versus sometimes through the stories that I may tell of my clients. And again, depending on the audience, I do a combination of both. So they're
Okay, okay.
relatable to their industry and the companies that they may look up to. And I also share the stories of myself and my own clients.
And how do you connect with the stories? How do you use stories to connect with the clients, with I mean the audience?
Again, it just depends on who's in the audience, right? And so I know as entrepreneurs, for an example, your audience is about entrepreneurship and building your businesses. So I tell stories that will relate to entrepreneurs and, building it around, some of the challenges that I faced or some of the challenges that my clients have faced that will be at the level of where, for the most part, your potential audience would be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right.
So it's important to know who's in the audience, and you can you have a foundation for your stories, but you can always kind of tweak it depending on who's in the audience.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good skill to have when you develop that and you're able to like get out there and go in front of a crowd. It's not, like yeah, it's not like there's a richer, like a stronger connection
Mm-hmm.
when especially when you're in person. So you were able to you were able to go through some different not challenges, but experiences on the stage, right? And now you can is that something you also teach your clients?
Yes, I do teach clients as a part of my 3-step process and framework for positioning to use public speaking as one of the fastest paths to land clients. Because
Yeah,
again, someone standing in front of the room, we always immediately look at them as the expert, right? Because if they're standing there, they must know something. The company would not have hired them or
yeah,
brought them there if they didn't think that they had something of value. So when you're
yeah,
standing in front of an audience, that are automatically, number one, lands you credibility, right? And then
mm,
your ability to tell your story, the ability to talk about the problems that the audience may have, and to be able to provide a solution as well to that audience is important. And also to be able to find a way to connect with them is
yeah,
going to be important as well as you're delivering your speech. So because it has worked for me and I was able to build the business much faster than trying to do one-to-one networking, public speaking is, for me, and I teach it as a fast path to clients and building your brand, building your position in your marketplace so that.
yeah. True. Oh, can you? Okay, okay. I thought we lost the sound, but we're good. Okay,
For a second, for
okay.
some reason I had a call coming through.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I have a question for you. Let's go straight to it. What is your meaning of freedom?
Oh man. I would say my meaning of freedom would be to have flexibility, right? And freedom for me, when I say flexibility, I remember being a single mom with one child and wanting to be able to pick him up from school, be able to attend field trips. Freedom for me in my 20s meant I get to pick up my child from school and drop him off every day and also be able to attend field trips and award ceremony, right? Freedom also looks like the ability to earn money whenever I want.
Hmm.
One of the things my great grandmother taught me, she was an entrepreneur. And again, I'm a little girl in Georgia. I want candy, right? Every little kid wants candy, right? I'm always wanting
Yeah.
candy and junk food. And so I'm like, Grandma, I need money, and she said, well, I'm going to take you to work with me. And I'm like, okay. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to work. She said to me, if you have a business, you'll always have the ability to make money.
Yeah.
And I never forgot that.
Mm.
And that also gave me the thought process to go sell a flower to make $1 because of that statement that that skill and that lesson really that my great grandmother taught me about entrepreneurship, right? Although
Yeah.
she had a day job, she still had her cleaning business, which allowed her to make money, more money. If she wanted more clients to make more money, she had the opportunity to have the ability to make however much money she wanted to make at any time she wanted to. So that's what freedom looks like for me, you know,
Yeah.
being present with my kids, my family, my friends, and also having the opportunity to make money whenever I choose to make money, however much I want to make. And there's been times where I'm like, okay, I need to make an extra $3,000 this week. What do I need to do to go make it happen? Make it
Yeah.
happen, and I do the thing that I want to do, right? Again, it doesn't have to always be 100,000, 10,000. You know, sometimes it could be $1,000 just because I just want to go splurge, right? You
Yeah.
know, whatever that is, you know. So again, it's just that freedom. That's what freedom looks like for me.
Get yourself a bonus whenever you want.
Exactly.
Different kind of candies. I think like that flexibility is so key, especially when we have kids. I feel, when you said like having the ability to go like bring them to school and then also get them from school, this is something that I value so much. I have been able to do that recently, but I'm not always. It's not always gonna be like that for like a little bit of time. I'm in a transition right now,
Mhm.
but this is what I'm aiming for, right? Like for as long as I can. I know they're growing so fast. At one point, they're gonna be like, "Daddy, you're not gonna pick me up anymore," you
Oh
know?
no,
Uh,
believe
yeah,
me, they will.
yeah.
I promise you. I'll tell you a
Oh,
story. When I started teaching as a professor at a university and just, navigating, having to go through orientation and, learn, all about curriculum design and all those things, right? And I had to put my kids on a school bus. And my oldest son was in eighth grade, and he was like, "So when is this going to be over?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "I'm not used to this. You dropped me off to school. You picked me up all my life. So what are you doing?" I'm like, "What? Like, are you kidding me?" He was a teenager, and even in high school, I picked him up, I dropped him off in high school until they got cars and learned how to drive.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, true, true. It's true. I was doing that myself, when I was a teenager. Like I used to do sports a lot in high school, and yeah, I remember my dad driving me. And I didn't get a car until way later, right? So yeah, I guess it lasts longer. So I got time.
And especially if you build that bond along the drive, right? And I think
Yeah.
it was more the bond and the conversations along the drive that made it the thing that they didn't want to give up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. Definitely. So yeah, like going back to that flexibility, I think it's a huge motivator. And business is us, using our resources that we already have, within ourselves to actually get that flexibility and also get that not having a capped income, right? Not being limited in the sense of, oh, yeah, this is what I'm gonna get this year, and it's gonna stop there. Or I might, maybe like depending what kind of job you do, or maybe I'm gonna get a bonus like at the end of the year or beginning of the year. Uh, but I think so many times like we grew up in that employee mindset, thinking that this is our wage, this is our salary, and there's no other possibilities. But when we start to realize that, using our resourcefulness allow us to not putting any limits on that, it's powerful.
And the amount of money that we can earn, because like you said, we never have to wait for a pay raise. We can always give ourselves a
Yeah,
pay raise.
yeah, yeah. That's the beauty of it. So, how how do you how do you teach your kids that?
how do I teach my kids that? Number one, I always have encouraged my kids to be entrepreneurs. And again, my oldest son, he doesn't necessarily have that entrepreneur spirit about him. But I'm sure maybe if he finds that thing that connects with him, then maybe it will come later in life. Now, my youngest son, I mean, he was an entrepreneur, I would say, from middle school, where he was tie-dyeing socks and selling them for $5. And then he got into the, flipping of the sneakers, where I had to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and stand in line. And he wouldn't even give me $5 for gas with all the money that he was making, right? And so
Whoa.
now he runs a clothing brand, Stizzy Loner, that, he's doing the thing, and he's learning, to navigate entrepreneurship. He's learning. And I was saying to him the same thing that my great grandmother told me. As long as you have a business, you have the ability to earn however much money you want to earn, whether it's
Yeah.
every day, every week, every month, every year.
I think, yeah, I think having someone who tells us that, like as young as we can, helps a lot. For me, it was my dad. My dad was actually having his cyclotouristic, I don't know how you call it, yeah, cyclist maps. It was actually like doing maps for cyclists,
Oh,
to
okay, yes,
like.
there's cyclist maps. Okay, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So he was doing that, and he was working a lot, but he was working from home, and like I saw him doing his thing, and yeah, it was a lot of work, and I think like he could have get also some guidance, but just that model, and I don't remember a particular time when he was telling me, any lessons about entrepreneurship. I don't remember that, but just from seeing him, for me, it was already that idea
See.
that I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be in business, right? And I was 9 years old,
Mhm.
and I started to carve. So I was going to the forest to
Mhm.
pick some walking sticks,
Uh-huh.
and then um, I don't know how you call it. Like I was basically like making them like so clean and shiny,
Okay.
so that I can sell
Okay.
them, right? As walking like wooden walking sticks.
Okay.
And I was selling that to the family. I made a catalog with
Nice.
other articles made in wood and all that. So it didn't last for long, but
It
that
was
was
the
the
start.
yeah, it was the start. So at 9 years old, I already had that entrepreneurial
Mhm.
spirit, and it was from the model of my dad. So I think having that in our environment, just in itself, is really something that can flip a switch, right? As kids.
Mhm. Mhm. And
So
even though I say my oldest, he doesn't have that entrepreneur spirit, I think he does great marketing for his brother's clothing line, right? So he gets clients for his brother
yeah,
because he's a talker and he's always out in public. So although he's not the business owner, he has that ability to connect and network and sell the product, which helps his brother out. So he
true.
does it in his own way to help, the business,
Yeah,
if that makes
maybe,
sense.
maybe definitely, and maybe at one point it's gonna be an affiliate. You never know.
Exactly. You
Um,
never know.
let's let's go back to your childhood, Kay. And I know you had some teachers that were, I don't know if pivotal is the word, but they helped like give you an idea of what you wanted to do later in life.
Mhm.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that moment that inspired you maybe as a kid to become a certain like do certain thing in your life, and how it end up happening
Yeah.
in a
So,
certain way.
okay. Yeah. So, as we were speaking earlier before we got on the line, on the live and just connecting even more, I was saying to you that you asked me the question, what did I dream of as a kid? And my answer to you was, I dreamed of being a teacher. But as I got older, I'm like, oh, I don't want to be a teacher, right? Because they don't make a lot of money. But I do remember the impact that my elementary school teachers had on me, which was why I wanted to be a teacher. Right? They were very nurturing. They pushed me. They saw something in me that I may not have seen in myself that they were able to bring out and ignite inside of me. Right? And so when I thought of becoming a teacher, as I, was deciding on a career in life, I knew that I wasn't going to go to school to be a teacher in education. But somehow I landed up in education. And I landed up in education in two ways, being a teacher. Number one, teaching entrepreneurs about marketing, about positioning themselves, about how to show up and make a transformation, in the lives of others, and how to use public speaking, and, how to position your brand. And so I did actually come back to being a teacher. And one of the things that is important to me when I work with clients is, there's a verse from the Bible. I don't know it quite, specifically, but it says, it's almost, I don't know if it's from the Bible, but, when the people went out to fish, instead of, the person leading going out and bringing it back, he taught them how to fish. And that's the
Yeah.
one thing that I really strive to teach my clients, how to fish, so that they can create the freedom. They can create the financial freedom that they want. They can have the bonuses that they choose to have, right?
Yeah.
And then I also found my way in teaching in higher education. I was presented an opportunity, didn't really want it, but I was like, okay, I like challenges. Let me go challenge myself and go to this interview. Lo and behold, I got the job. And I'm like, this is not what I want to do. I'm in business. I'm an entrepreneur. Well, why am I even doing this? But
Yeah.
I stick with it, and I absolutely love it, because I do get to teach what I absolutely love, which is
Mhm.
ergonomics, which is business and marketing and positioning, and, putting together your business plan. I love those things, and I love teaching those things. And so I do have the opportunity to teach it in higher education. And I have an opportunity to teach entrepreneurs who come to me wanting to know how to do that effortlessly, so that they can land the clients and, make the transformations in the lives of people they're meant to serve.
So you carried that into the future, which is now, I think it's really precious to have those people that, like, not every kid has that chance, to have teachers that nurture them and kind of like bring out, as you were saying, like they ignited that spark that propelled you with, like, having a vision for what you wanted to do later in life. I think that question of, what did you dream of when you were a kid? What I'm realizing is that a lot of people, they don't remember, and I believe that we all had a dream, whether it was lost, whether it was buried, forgotten. We all had a dream or dreams, right, when we were kids. But I'm just realizing that a lot of people, they forget, like they totally forgot about what they were dreaming when they were kids. It's crazy. They might remember what they wanted to do, right? Because that's what people ask all the time. What do you want to do when you grow up, And then it goes through like different sets of career and professions. But yeah, that question of what do you want to, like, what were you dreaming when you were a kid? Um, do you do you know why? Do you know why? Like, do you have an idea of? I know it's not easy to, but do you have a feeling of why so many people forget about that?
You know, Honestly, it could be for several reasons. I mean, it could be something as simple, it's not simple, but It could be they told their parents or someone who they really looked up to about their dream, and that person squashed that idea.
Mm.
And so because the person probably said, you can't do that, or who do you think you are, or that's impossible, they
Hmm.
lost the dream.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think there are like several reasons, definitely. Um, yeah, I was just reflecting about that these days because I'm just like I'm realizing, like a lot of people and it brought me back to that ebook from Seth Godin, and whoever watched that, I really suggest that you go read the ebook. It's free. You go online on Google. You type Seth Godin, marketing expert, and the book is called Stop Stealing Dreams.
Mm.
And it's 100 pages ebook. It's you have to and if you're not reading too much, you can go straight on YouTube. Stop Stealing Dreams. There's a TEDx talk also with Seth Godin. But I think it's a summary of it. Just made me reflect about that, and I would say it's a summary of why people don't take their dreams in the future into adulthood, and like at the end of the 20s, in the 30s, and later on, people just don't remember what they were dreaming about. And I have my kids right now, and they're in the middle of like having so many ideas and insights, and it's really inspiring to see them thinking about, so like, imagine, right? Another world.
Exactly.
And
And maybe have them write it down in a little journal.
yeah, we have a book, and yeah, we have the Imagine book.
Mm.
We call it the Imagine
Nice,
book.
nice.
And sometimes I'm walking with my daughter to school, and we play that game of Imagine, right? And we just imagine like another reality. It could be like it could be anything. Like everything is possible, right? So she just let something out, and then it's my turn, right? So we exchange like that.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. So
amazing. That is amazing. Keep it up. Keep it up.
yes, yes. Thanks.
It's almost like
Okay,
it's almost like it reminds me of Neville Goddard's Living in the End, sort of, kind of thing. If you're familiar with Neville Goddard, Living in the End.
uh, it doesn't ring a bell, but maybe in France, like is it a movie?
No. So Neville Goddard talked about the term is
He's
I'm
another.
sorry.
He's another.
He's an author, yes. So
Yeah.
Neville
Okay.
Goddard is an author, and basically he talks about imagining the life that you want, right? But imagining it now as if you're living it. So he refers to the term as living in the end, right? And so when you
Yeah.
live in the end, you can feel it, you can taste it, you can smell it, you can see it. It's like you're connecting through all of your five senses for that thing to be the reality that you desire. And so it just
Yeah.
kind of made me think of, oh wow, that's like living in the end sort of thing.
Living in the end. Yeah, I
Yes.
like that. I think it can be something really like yeah,
Metaphysical
but
is the
there's an
term that I was thinking. Metaphysical. That was the term I was thinking of.
metaphysical. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like actually living a future reality. It's possible.
Mhm.
Let's go straight. You brought the author. Now, I want to know. You talked to me about a book. Can you tell us about a book that shifted something, brought you something of value to your life and business?
Yeah, so the book that I told you, although I'm an avid reader and I love reading, and it was hard to kind of think about that question when you asked me to prepare for our live, and I'm like, what do I choose? But I wanted to go off of the non-traditional and the common books that everybody will probably present, right? And so there's a gentleman, his name is David Nagel, and he wrote the book Millions Within. And
Mm.
he is he is a business coach, and he basically was trained under by Bob Proctor to make your yearly income your monthly income, right? And so that is what he teaches people to do. And so with that mindset of what he does, that's what I thought the book was about, Millions Within. Like, okay, I got this $1,000,000 idea inside of me, and here it is coming out because I want to read this book. And when I
Yeah.
got to the main nugget of the book, I was disappointed at first because I'm like, oh, he didn't teach me how to make the millions.
Yeah.
But he taught me something more valuable. He taught me that I can tap into the million resources that are inside of me to bring the thing that's within me out into the world. And once I got out of my head about what I was expecting and really sat with it, it took me like a day or two to really sit with the idea of what the real concept of the book was about. It
Mm.
really shifted me from looking outward to going in, meditating more, having that quiet time
Mm.
to be true to myself and to also be able to identify those opportunities, because when we have so much noise around us, it can be hard to identify and grab onto that thing. But if we're quieting and allowing ourselves to go within and to hear that voice, right, which is known as our intuition or that guiding force,
Yeah.
it's a game changer in life and in business.
Yeah.
So
True.
it's David Nagel's The Millions Within.
I think going and thank you for that title because I never heard of that book. It's the first time.
Mhm.
And yeah, people talking about they often talk about like the books that we are used to hear. For example, Think and Grow Rich. You were mentioning I don't know if you were mentioning. Yeah, you were mentioning at first. I had my man JP who joined the live with us. Um, when we were talking, but also we had a conversation last week, and that's the book you presented, right? So having that other like other perspective, I think there are so many other books, to explore.
Mhm.
Um, Once we go within, we can also, yeah, it's like a world of abundance, right? And we can also find peace, and this is so key, like especially in a crowded environment where it's easy to get like stuck in a busy loophole of just going like running after something, right?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
Going within is really important also for like the healing process of going through life.
Hmm. Hmm. And it
Yeah,
also can provide us the answers that we are searching for,
yeah,
right? And because again, we have that ability if we ask. I'm not sure if it's Abraham Hicks or it's you ask and it is given, right? Neville Goddard also wrote a book, Ask and it is given. Going within and you're asking and trusting that whatever you're asking guidance for, or the thing that you need or want, it's going to come to you, but you have to
mm,
trust the process and
yeah,
just go within, because every answer that we need starts from within, and we ask and it comes to us.
yeah, yeah. I believe that too, and I'm experiencing that too. So Tony is saying great insights, Kay. Tony is he's a loyal. He's always there. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Tony.
Um, I I just want to approach quickly because I know that there's also another book. And there are other books, but just quickly, The Alchemist is also a book that benefited you in some ways. Can you just tell us a few words about that book?
Yes, The Alchemist definitely allowed me to realize that you cannot give up. That's just one of the main points, right?
Yeah.
It seems like we have challenges and we have the adversities in life, but we can't give up, right? There we have the ability to make that thing.
Yeah,
But we
true.
have to, again, it's going from within to going, finding that strength and that resilience to be able to continue to navigate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's another journey. It's another type of way to approach, that journey from within. Yeah, so definitely. The Alchemist is such a great book.
There's so many
So
points, and every time I've reread it, I'm like, I'm highlighting something else, because the beauty of rereading books, when you've evolved, something new is
mm,
going to come out at you because
yeah,
you're now evolved. So you can read something differently, you can interpret it differently based on where you are.
yeah,
If you haven't evolved yet, you won't recognize it.
yeah.
And
And
I've
the
noticed that.
evolution. Yeah, it's so true. I was talking to a person when I read that book. I talked to one of my friend about it, and she said, "Oh, we read that book in high school, but I didn't find anything to it." But uh, she was not ready for that book, right? So she was like, "Yeah, I probably should read that book now, you know." And you were talking about the evolution and also like we're going through, right? So the experience also where we are in our life, sometimes we can make connections that haven't happened before, but now because we lived it along the way, then rereading the book, we can connect to those experience, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
Um, just okay, so thank you so much for that. Before we wrap up, okay, I know you wrote, ebooks as lead magnets, but you also wrote a published book. Can you talk to us about that book?
Yes, the name of my book is What a Woman's Gotta Do. And it's dig deep, make a decision, and take action. And the book, honestly, I never imagined being an author, first of all. I never thought that I would have a published book. And through my journey, I end up going to therapy. And, I'm thinking I need someone to talk to. I need to get to the next level in my life and figure out what's going on. And the therapist was in awe about where I came from and who I was at that moment, right? And so she said to me, "You should write a book." And I'm like,
Mm,
"Me? I'm not a writer. What are you talking about?" And she's like, I think you should write a book because your story of resilience and perseverance and the challenges that you've overcome will help other women. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And along maybe a year or so later, I met someone else and their recommendation, "You should write a book." And I'm like, okay, this is the second time. Okay, maybe I need to pay attention, right? And so I had started trying to write the book and it didn't come naturally. And I was trying to force it. I'm like, you know what, let it go, whatever. And one day, something woke me up at about 3 o'clock in the morning and said, "Write the book." And I'm like, "What? It's 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm not writing a book. What is get up and write the book?" And I'm like, okay. So I grabbed a regular notebook and, pen, and I wrote and I cried and I wrote and I cried and I
wow.
wrote and I cried and I wrote and I cried and I wrote. And when I was done, about 3 hours later, the book was done.
Yeah.
And I was so just surprised that it flowed when it was time for it to flow out of me.
Mm,
And not only has the book changed the lives of women, which that was the target market of who I wrote it for, and it's really about, again, digging deep. What do you want? What are your fears? What are holding you? What are things that are holding you back? Dig deep. Make a decision. Now you have to make a decision and define it. This is what I desire. What are the steps that I need to take to make it happen? And then it's
mm,
take action. You set small goals and you take the action. So not only has it helped women, I've had men tell me, "Oh, you need to change the title of the book because it has helped me as a man, and so many other men need it."
mm, yeah.
And it's really my story, my challenges, but they're true. I'm being vulnerable in the book. and it's also a workbook, and it's it's very small. You can read it in a matter of of a couple hours, but there are pages for you to be able
Yeah,
to write the
that's so good.
things out and do the thing that
Yeah,
will help you dig deep and take action, right?
yeah,
And for me, I'm all about helping people ignite what's in them and helping them bring it out, because there's something that each and everyone, we're all meant to do. We may not all be meant to be entrepreneurs, but there's something that you are meant to do, whether you're meant to be the world's best accountant, whether you're meant to be, a top lawyer, or whatever that is, whether you are in a job, it doesn't matter, but you're meant to be something and someone, and learning how to get out of your own way and be fearless. And fearless is the purpose of why I wrote the book, to
yeah.
help people navigate and begin that journey in their career or as an entrepreneur.
Wow. That made me think of, like Seth Godin said, the most important book you're gonna read is the one you write.
Mhm.
And you can testify, you know. It is really like a journey of digging deep inside of ourselves and being vulnerable, because we are sharing that to the world. And I like the format you use, because now it's not only taking actions through words, but there are activities, like there are questions that people can fill up, right? And the taking action part is so key, because that's where the transformation resides.
Yeah.
And so many times we can dive into theories and getting knowledge, information. There is not a lack of that outside, right? Out
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
But what happens is that, if there's no action, if there's no implementation, then we don't transform, we don't change, and we don't heal, we don't connect with our purpose, as you were saying, like the things you are meant to do. Uh, we just hold back and never experience that. And how many stories end up like that, right? People having held back for the whole life, and now at the end of their life, no matter how old they are
Yeah.
regretting not making the move, not taking action, right? Now they're looking back and it's too late.
Yes. It was the saying, you can always say, at least you tried versus not trying at all.
Yeah,
If you try, you release the regret. But if you never try, you always live with that regret.
yeah, and I think, when you try, sometimes like it doesn't necessarily bring you exactly where you were going, but it brings you somewhere else, which is as good, or can be better, right?
Mhm.
So it's not like nothing, everything is planned out or doesn't unfold the way you want it. And that's the beauty of it, right? If you knew everything that would happen for the rest of your
Mhm.
life, there is a chance that you might find it boring. It's like going to the movie and already knowing everything that happens in the movie,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's the same thing. Now it's the movie of your own life.
Mhm.
So if you know everything about it, you're like, yeah, this is what's gonna happen. It's exactly gonna be happening like that. I'm gonna meet that people, and you know,
Uh-huh.
there's no thrill. So the
And most of
thrill of
us
the
want the
unknown.
answer. Most of us want to know what's happening in the future, because then we really think that we're going to do the thing that it takes to get us there. And that's where I think a lot of people don't realize that you might know the future, but you still have to do the steps to get you there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's where, curiosity enters, and then we're like, oh, Tony is saying everyone needs this knowledge for everything in life, especially when we get lost in some moments in life, lots of gaps in this life. Yeah, definitely. And within those gaps, that's where we learn, that's where we get the lessons, that's when we grow. And then when we grow, when we get those lessons, right? Now after that, we can go and teach the people. We can go and become coaches and be there to support other people's growth through their gaps,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, you you got into business at 25-year old, and the environment was not the same at that time, right?
Oh
But
no.
when you decided to go there, like you experienced that for yourself, and some people now today, because of that, they are able to go faster. They are able to not make the mistake you made because you are there for them. And now you went through the gaps so that today they don't have to do the same thing. They don't have to go through the same kind of gaps. There will be gaps, right? There will be transitions and struggle challenges. It's part of the journey, right?
Yes.
A story without challenges
It's a boring
it's
story.
not a story. It's boring. It needs that, to fully appreciate the other side, right? When once we reach the peaks. But this is so key. So yeah, I want to acknowledge you for taking action, like actually digging deep, taking a decision and really taking action to now, being able to impact the people. So yeah, I want to acknowledge you for that. Thank you so much, Kay.
Thank
Do you have anything that you want to add uh, for a word of for a last word?
I would say to any entrepreneur, there are three things that you need to really consider when you're launching your business, growing your business. And the first thing would be how you're going to position yourself in the marketplace is very important. Your ability to deliver with confidence is important. And having your unique position and having that confidence to present that to the world. And then when we think about converting, do it in a way that feels wonderful for you, right? Because everything doesn't work for everyone, and sales doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to feel awkward. So finding the way that feels comfortable and wonderful for you to pitch your services and ask for the sale is key. And marketing doesn't have to be hard. It's about learning the skills and implementing them so that you can get to your result much quicker than doing it all by yourself or just trying to figure it out, just stumbling through. So, three things: position yourself, deliver with confidence, and convert with in a way that feels wonderful for you. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like your process, and that's the effortless part of it, right? And I call it flow. Like, when it feels like everything is flowing, this is for me, this is what effortless is, right? It feels good to you. This is how you like it, so you actually enjoy doing business, and you don't dread it, right?
Exactly.
So thank you so much for sharing the stories, your journey, your experiences, and the tips. It was so valuable. If people want to connect with you, get to know more about your work, what is the best place to do so?
I'm more active on Facebook, so they can reach out to me, K at I did Igniter Richardson on Facebook, or even if they want to use Instagram, since we're on Instagram, friend request me, follow me on Instagram, DM me, ask me, whatever challenges you may have when it comes to positioning yourself in your business and in your marketplace, and I'll see how I can, help you navigate.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. She's gonna help you do that. Thanks for people who joined in. Tony, always very involved. Thank you for the great comments. Really appreciate. Once again, welcome everybody to the Freedom Life Stories. It was a pleasure to share this powerful conversation with Kay Richardson. And yeah, follow Freedom Life Design on Instagram so that you can get to see other powerful talks like that. And I'll see you soon. So thank you again, Kay, for this talk. It was a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great one.